This tutorial is an orientation just to SPOL and the accreditation module. So as you know, the accreditation module right over here is where we're going to spend most of our time, in fact all of our time, for this first go around with SPOL and writing our narrative. So the first thing you want to do is go to accreditation and click View My Standards. This is the fastest way to get to your standards and the most comprehensive way. And the first thing I want to remind you to do, if you haven't done it already, and it's an important step that we're dependent on you to do, is that if you recall, Dr. Green gave us a crosswalk of the standards and which standards you're assigned. We took that crosswalk and tried to mimic it within the SPOL system. But as you know, human beings can make errors. So it's important, very important, for you to take that crosswalk and compare it to what we actually have in the system you assign. And there are two things you want to look for. One, you want to look for, if, number one, if anything's missing. That means if you were assigned standard 6.5 and you don't see it on your listing here, then something's wrong, right? Like I don't see 6.5. So I don't even know if there is a 6.5, but you get my point. You need to then bring that to our attention so we can correct it. The other thing might be that you've been assigned something that you're just like, why am I assigned this? And you don't see it on the list. You need to check to see if there was something we did wrong. Did we add you to a standard incorrectly, or I did incorrectly, or what's going on? Some standards you have been given that may not appear on the list, and it means that, for example, I'll use faculty 2 as an example. On the sheet, the crosswalk, it may just say that you're assigned to faculty, but you can see that faculty breaks down into 3 sections, 2A, 2B, and 2C. So that's why you might now see 2A, 2B, and 2C, and you didn't see it on the crosswalk. But even that, when it seems pretty obvious, you can still ask us that question just to confirm it. So we do, again, we're dependent on everyone to do this step. So again, make sure you are covering your bases as well, okay? And don't assume because you're not seeing it on the list, oh, they must have taken me off. That's a false assumption. That's, I can tell you, not correct. You are assigned that standard. You just need to contact us. I probably made an error on this end. Okay, so now you're looking at your standards. So I'm going to actually go into one of my standards here. Just double click and it'll take you to your standard. And let's take a look at what we're looking at the very top. So you can see that Dr. Green is our source manager. You can actually email Dr. Green directly from SPOL, which is a wonderful feature. You can actually, this is the approval status in terms of, once you finish your document, you can actually submit for approval, and that will go to Dr. Green for approval. That is actually the final step that all of us must take once a standard is done. And not just the narrative, that means you're done with uploading all of your evidence as well. As you can look here, the standard detail is right here, and it tells you how it reads. It's very important that you are always connecting back to that standard to ensure you have covered the full standard. And I'll use this as an example. The institution publishes appropriate and clear procedures. So we have to affirm that they're both appropriate and also clear for addressing written student complaints. Okay? So that's the standard. Also, if you notice here, I talked about in our training how important it is to make sure you plug in the old standard. If there's an old standard that matches up, that's very similar, it may not be perfectly aligned, but it's very similar in nature, it's a good process of actually going to the old standard and pasting it in. But when you do that, I also cautioned you and said make sure you put a note. And as you can see here, there's a note, old responses below, and then there's a note from me talking about where I am in terms of updating. And you can see this standard is about 90% done. And I'm also giving some other information. These are all good techniques. Now, in terms of bringing the document over, it works just like Microsoft Word. You have to go into edit mode. I'm going to go ahead and click on edit mode. You have to go into edit mode, and it will copy and paste. In fact, I'll just copy this statement right here, old standard. Let's say that you're working in a Word document. You can simply go to the Word document. In fact, let's do that instead. I'll go to an active Word document. And let's say that I wanted to paste this statement in. I can just copy the statement, I can right click it, or I can use my keyboard and hit Control C, but for the purposes of so you can see it, I want to just go ahead and use copy, and I can go right back to SPOL, and I'm going to go ahead and I can click paste. Should have pasted. Let's see, let me try Control V instead. There we go. Not sure why it did not paste in. Maybe because I have to use it internally. Hold on. Oh, okay. So I'm going to go right back to my document here, and I'm going to copy it, as you can see, and I'm going to right click it, or you can hit Control C, but for the purpose of the video so you can really see it, I'll go ahead and just copy it the old way. So copy that document, and then of course I go right back to SPOL, and I can paste it right in. So let's say I'm going to put it, let's put it underneath compliance here. Let's say I want to plug it in right here. So all I have to do is right click again, and I can paste, and it comes right in, and it comes in perfectly. I have to say SPOL does a great job, and it doesn't matter how much or how small. You can copy and paste directly into SPOL just like you would do any other Word document, right? So I'm going to get rid of this because I don't want to confuse myself later on. This is an actual standard. Okay, so you can see that it has copy and paste features. So let's take a look at the top ribbon in the edit response mode. You can see that I'm under HTML. You should stay there. So keep it at HTML, and I'm under the edit button right here. And when you see things like pasting and copying and cutting, that means internally in the document. Remember earlier we were external. Okay, so these features, I don't think, I've tried pasting documents that are external. It hasn't worked. So I'm assuming that's for inside the document only. So you can also print, which is an important feature. I love this feature because sometimes if you're anything like me, I like to see what I'm writing, especially when I'm in editing mode. I like to print it, and I can edit on the spot in front of me. So there's a print feature. Also, you can spell check. And by the way, I'm not going to cover all of these because I'm only going to cover the ones I think that we're really going to use. Spell check is a must-do. At the end, before you send it to Dr. Green to review, you want to make sure you spell check and, double check it, make sure it's clean, make sure you guys have edited it pretty well. You can undo anything that you've done. You can use your finger motions to Control Z. So this is undoing, this is bringing things forward to redo. Also, the system is already set up for your formatting, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it should be Arial. I hope I'm not wrong about that. I'm pretty sure about that. So right now, this was brought in as a Times Roman, and we can just convert it over. You can hit Control A and go to Arial, and it will convert it for you, just like so. Just like any Word document that you're used to seeing. You want to set it to 3 in the system. That is the correct size, and it should be normal. You do not want to change things in the system to for example, let's say you want to do a heading like this. This is incorrect. You want to keep everything exactly the same. So Arial 3. Okay. Now, and I am firm on that, Arial 3. Okay. So the next thing I want to show you that you can bold, you can italicize and underline. You're all used to these kinds of standards. Kinds of features. You can also, of course, this is your for your letters, the colors, and you want to keep everything in black except for your, of course, anything that you're highlighting in terms of your documentation will be in this really ultra blue. But that will convert to blue when you actually link it. But one of the things I said during training, and I'm going to hold to that, as you're writing, keep your evidence in blue. It's going to be much easier for you later to spot it when you're coming back to link it. If you put it in black, and I'll give you an example here. I'm going to change this to black. And you're trying to find it, and now I just lost it. Maybe I didn't convert it. There it is. See, it was so difficult. I lost it that quick. But you see how when you don't change it to black, how it can be very difficult for you to spot where there's evidence. So while you're writing your standard, go ahead and convert it to the darkest blue you can find. And then later when you convert it over and you link it, it'll change it to this really bright sort of purplish blue color. Okay, that's important. You can also, as you can see here, you can align left, right, which is our document. Our document aligns left. That is correct. You also have the ability to bullet, which you're going to need to do oftentimes, as well as you can have a numeral system. Now, let's go to Insert button. Now, the next button is Insert. One thing I do like about SPOL is that they haven't, in Microsoft Word, we have several buttons that go all the way across. But here, they simplified it. They've just only stuck to those things that are really, really important. So next is Insert, which is my favorite part of SPOL. You can insert tables, which you can watch. There's a separate video on how to insert tables. You can also insert images. There's a separate video on how to insert images. That's rare for us to have images in the actual narrative, but I think you do need to use it just in case you do have to insert an image. And also how to insert documents. That's a separate video also. Please watch it on how to insert documents so that they pop up for the reviewer. Remember, that's really important. We do not use links. Never ever use a hyperlink in the documents because evidence, because they break. So if you're trying to show a web page, you're going to have to take a screenshot of the web page and convert it to a PDF. If you need any help in doing that, just contact me or Dr. Green or Dr. James. Okay? And right now we're not using these features, outcomes and objectives. That's for the assessment module, and we're not using it. So you won't have to worry about really any of these things right here. Okay? And so that's pretty much it in terms of what you have to do. Okay, so I'm going to get it out of. Also, one thing to say, whenever you're in edit mode, for anything to save, on your document, you have to hit save. Never hit the close button first. Always save first. Remember that. Save your changes and then close. Because imagine if you were in editing and you did all these changes and you forgot to hit save. It's all lost. Even if you worked on it for an hour, it's all gone because you didn't hit the save button. So it doesn't auto recovery save. That I have not seen. So you have to manually save all your information. So I'm going to scroll down the document. So when you get to the bottom of the documentation, remember you have to build a chart with your documentation in it. So everything at the top here must match. So the best thing to do, what I always recommend is that build your narrative first with all of your blue links, name them the way you want them named, and then simply copy them down here one by one. One little trick I'm going to show you. It's a little tedious, but it's better than, renaming them. What I actually do, I copy like a section, like I might grab, let me go into edit. I'm going to show you a little trick of how I get them in. Now this is an important step, and let me tell you why. When you grab everything under the narrative, and let me open this up a little bit, you don't have to relink all this again. These were specific, everything you see in blue we had to go step by step, one link at a time, and link it to the documentation. So that's why it's so important to go ahead and after everything is done and you've linked everything, build your chart. Because now everything's linked and all you have to do is copy it down below and you don't have to relink it. So I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. I don't know if you like it or not. Of course you can go one by one. I just think it's so tedious. It drives me a little crazy. So I do this. You may think this is a terrible decision or you don't like this approach, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So I go ahead and hit Control C. I'm going to copy that. And then I go all the way to the bottom. And again, it's a little tedious. I'm going to go ahead and hit Insert Row Below. And what I do, I put it all in one little box, and then I do this. And again, it's a little tedious, but I think it's faster than bringing them in one at a time. And then I get rid of all the narrative. I think you know what I'm doing here. You can kind of see it. I get rid of all the narrative. Again, I think this saves me time because I don't have to relink, and I'm not doing them one at a time. One at a time, when you have 20 links to do, it drives me insane. Now, the other thing is this. Notice that I'm trying my best to keep them in the order that they were written. So then I just go ahead and I do this. Then I'm just going to put them in the same order, chronological order that they were listed. And then all I do is build, then I bring them down one by one by one down on these rows. You see that? So then let's say I'll show exactly what I do. Let me go ahead and hit Insert Row. So then I do that one here, and then I bring this one down. And again, you might just say, oh, forget it. I'll just go ahead and put them in one by one my other way. But I just wanted to show you that is a way to get them in a little faster. No matter what you do, it's going to be tedious, okay? But I can tell you this, what you don't want to do is just type them out and relink everything again. That would be, to me, crazy because that's going to take you double the time, okay? So the key is just bring them down, but remember what we just said, bring them down. If this was listed first, that goes first, that goes second. Third, fourth, fifth. It has to be in the same exact order and the same wording. Now, the other thing you want to do when you get to the bottom, make no assumptions. Always check the links. So let's talk about how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit Save and close out. We always hit Save. And so let's say I check my link up here. And it's taking me, should take me to, oh, that's the one that we played with earlier. Let me fix that. Let me delink that. That was something that I changed earlier. So I'll go to one that really works. Let me go ahead and delink that. So I'll know to fix it later. Okay, so that real quick. You can always come back and fix that. Okay. And I'll close this out. So I'm going to find one that I've actually linked correctly. And here is one. So I'm going to go ahead and click that and just check to make sure it's taking the reviewer to the correct page. And there it is. It does. And then what I want to do is go down below. And that was in position around the third or fourth item. I think it was the fourth item. And what you want to do, once everything is done down here, you want to click and make sure it does in fact still work. There we go. So this is important. You always want to build from the top down, but check every single link. Never make assumptions. Don't say to yourself, oh, it's clearly linked because I see the line there. Check it. Always go in and make sure everything is aligned right and properly. This should show us step 4, phase, right? And so look at that. There it is. First I thought it wasn't linked right, but there it is. I scared myself, right? So you want to just double check and make sure everything is accurate. Okay, so when you scroll down from there, the last thing, a couple things I want to show you at the bottom. One, remember we do not use links, so that's why it says do not use. You don't have to worry about any of these sections. That's why it says skip right here. These are notes that you can use. Reviewers can put notes here. I recommend actually writing notes at the top of the document in red. And it's because, think about it, you're in the narrative, people can see it, and I just don't think people are going to remember to always go down here to pick up a note. So I think that's one thing I would recommend to SPOL, that notes should be really at the top of the document, not at the bottom. So I would recommend that you follow this little practice that we're doing within our standards. It's just putting it at the top in red. People can see it. It makes sense that it's there. Okay, so just scroll back down. You can see this is where you upload your PDFs, and again, that's a separate little video you can watch on how to upload your documents. And then down here you can see that if in fact you are a writer, you can see Mr. Allen and I are writers of this document, and that's it. So that's just the general overview of the accreditation model. Again, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those questions for you. I'm Cherie Davis, or you can always reach out to Dr. Murtis Green or Dr. Keisha James. Anyone on our team will be happy to help you.